Hello. Today's episode number 24 of the Professor Slots podcast discusses leveraging payout returns, plus slot machine casino gambling in the great U.S. state of Maryland. Thank you for joining me for the Professor Slots podcast show. I'm John Friedel, and this is the podcast about slot machine casino gambling. It is where I provide the knowledge, insights, and tools for helping you improve your slot machine gambling performance. Show notes are available within most podcast apps or at professorslots.com/E24.
John Friedel from the Professor Slots blog reveals all his tips and tricks for thriving in the casino environment. Choose winning slot machines and identify your gambling goals. Being entertained, earning comps, winning take-home cash, or combining them. John has won 90 taxable jackpots and a luxury car in 9 months of slot play and made a profit at slots gambling since 2013.
In case you missed it, on last week's episode, I went over winning strategy 1, only win immediately, thereby explaining the first of 7 winning strategies I've discovered for newer style casinos. Also last week, I reviewed Maine slot machine casino gambling, including how Maine has only one casino as well as one pari-mutuel racino, both offering slot machines. I hope you enjoyed listening to my last episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Let's get started with the first segment of the show, leveraging payout returns. So, imagine you're playing a slot machine. How good is it? Are you winning anything? Losing? Do you know how well your slot machine performed last month or last year? What about the casino? How well do slots enthusiasts perform there last month or last year? Each of these questions is centered around a single concept I'll be discussing in this episode: slot machine payout returns. As I've been mentioning lately in blogs and other podcast episodes, one way to improve slot machine gambling performance is to better understand slots history, existing and emerging gaming technology, and ongoing development of state gaming regulations. To provide a better understanding of slot machines for each of these slots-related areas of knowledge, this episode highlights slot machine payout returns. It has the following 7 sections. 1. An introduction. 2. The importance of slot machine payout returns. 3. Slot machine payout returns and bankroll cycling. 4. Theoretical slot machine payout returns. 5. Actual slot machine payout returns. 6. State gaming requirements for actual payout returns. And, number 7, a summary. Let's examine the importance of slot machine payout returns. Note that returns is plural. This is due to there being 2 types of payout returns, theoretical and actual. A theoretical return is an electronic setting for the slot machine. An actual return is what was recorded once the machine has been played for some period of time. I'll be describing both of these returns in detail in the next few sections. Beforehand, let's focus on the importance of slot machine payout returns. A lot of slots enthusiasts use the term loose and tight to describe slot machines. These popular terms are entirely about slot machine payout returns. Loose slot machines means it has a higher payout return, while tight slot machines have a lower payout return. Our slots are the loosest in the state, some casinos advertise. But what does that really mean? If they are being truthful in their marketing, which is possible, then they are saying that their slot machines have either the highest theoretical and or actual payout return percentages of any other casino in the state. It is possible that such marketing is truthful due to the constant oversight of all casino activities by the State Gaming Commission. Loss of the casino's gaming license might well result from untruthful marketing, so they try to avoid that. However, despite this protection, that doesn't mean you can't be tricked. For instance, perhaps it's the only casino in the state. Or perhaps it said number 1 in jackpots in Cincinnati, when it's Cincinnati's only casino. The importance of slot machine payout returns comes down to an understanding for slots enthusiasts of both what is possible, determining the highest baseline returns of any available casinos, and comparing their gambling performance to others. A later section will be about both what is possible due to state gaming regulations, as well as how some states require public reporting of payout returns. In the next section, I'll be covering how to use payout returns to provide some insight into your own slots gambling performance. So let's talk about slot machine payout returns and bankroll cycling. Each slot machine has both a theoretical as well as an actual payout return, usually given in percentages. A term similar to slot machine payout returns is hold percentages. Hold and return can be related as follows. Hold percent equals 100% minus return percent. In essence, payout return is the amount of money won divided by the amount of money bet during a gambling period. These gambling periods might be for a single session of play at a casino, over the course of a month of gambling, or even for a full year. As you might imagine, an electronic record is kept for each slot machine's performance. This record can be used by the casino operator to understand actual performance versus planned performance of the slot machine. Other statistical information can also be gleaned, if desired, such as the performance of a group of slot machines, as well as the overall casino property. Typically, payout returns are only discussed in terms of slot machines. It isn't practical to have this information in terms of a player. Why? Because this statistical information is only useful if there is a lot of data, and even the most ardent slots enthusiasts don't play much when compared to groups of slot machines at a casino. Besides not having data lakes of statistical information, slots enthusiasts have no practical way in which to collect the amount of each individual bet along with its outcome. Doing so would require using some kind of electronic gaming tool device, which is strictly illegal in most U.S. states. What is important for slots players is to record their overall performance, including date, gambling establishment, bankroll, and any winnings. As previously mentioned, I'll be detailing gambling record keeping in an upcoming post. But for now, a player's actual payout return can't, in general, be accurately calculated by winnings divided by bankroll due to bankroll cycling. In the busy casino environment, and adhering to the restriction on using an electronic gaming tool, there's a simple way to keep track of a player's payout return. I use it all the time, in part to keep track of when I've spent my original bankroll amount. Knowing when this happens, when the first cycle of a bankroll ends and the second cycle begins, can be difficult to guess. So I don't guess. I count. When you put some or all of your bankroll into a slot machine, note how many credits that is. You'll need to remember that number of bankroll credits for later. Then, as you play, keep track of how many credits you've bet. When credits bet equals the original bankroll, you've completed your first bankroll cycle. You've spent the amount of your bankroll. Next, how many credits remain in the machine? Divide this by the original bankroll credits to get the player's return. If you've won more than your bankroll, this return will be over 100%. If less, then the return is under 100%. At this point, you have a new bankroll, which is your winnings after having spent your original bankroll, and you can begin the cycle again. Time for a couple of caveats. First, don't spend your bankroll on that slot machine if you're not winning anything. I usually try to let the machine run for 15 to 20 bets before making a decision about whether or not I should continue on that slot machine, but sometimes stop earlier if I'm seeing absolutely no wins. Second, you may not win back your entire bankroll. For most slots players, this is highly typical. This is where the tough decision lies. If you're winning a little, are you winning enough? This definitely depends on your own gambling goals. For entertainment gamblers, the bankroll brought into the casino is essentially meant to be spent on entertainment. For those trying to earn maximum comps, bankroll cycling is the best way to earn those comps. But will it cycle as many times as needed if the bankroll at the beginning of each cycle significantly diminishes? For maximizing take-home money, is enough bankroll cycling occurring to give the machine enough time to play such that a bigger jackpot becomes more likely over time? Each slot machine has a theoretical hold percentage, or when subtracted from 100%, a theoretical return percentage for the casino. The expression payout return is often used, but these two words are redundant. A return from a casino is actually the same as a payout. Slot machine manufacturers design the electronics of slot machines to have a range of possible theoretical payout percentages, from which casino operators can select as needed. In general, slot machine manufacturers don't share how this is accomplished, not specifically, but they don't really have to. It's done in the usual ways. As the saying goes, and with all due respect to slot manufacturers, it's not rocket science. One enterprising individual has created a YouTube video about how theoretical odds are selected after opening a slot machine. How was he able to do this? He personally bought a slot machine, then created a video of how to do it using the equipment manual from the slots manufacturer that came with his purchase of a slot machine. Now that's convincing. Most recently, I have been unable to relocate that specific YouTube video, so I'll explain it here. If anyone locates it, please send the link to @ProfessorSlots on Twitter or email it to me at jon@ProfessorSlots.com. Thanks. In it, he showed that there were 6 theoretical hold settings possible to encode into the machine. Further, he explained that the highest setting made almost every bet a win, and for the lowest setting, any winnings at all were quite rare. If the hold percentage is high, meaning that the casino retains a relatively high amount of the player's cash in over time, then the player considers the slot machine to be tight. If the hold percentage is relatively low, so less of the player's cash in is lost to the casino, it is considered a loose slot machine. Slot machine manufacturers and casino operators do not make hold or payout percentages of specific slot machines available to the public, naturally enough. And, with technology marching forward, as it tends to do, the number of settings has likely increased somewhat alongside adding remote access to adjusting the odds electronically. This assumes any such changes in technologies have been approved, as legally required, by the gaming jurisdictions into which they have been installed. This tends to not be a fast process, and has slowed down the advancement of new gaming technologies to something which, in my opinion, is almost manageable. So, a set of theoretical slot machine payout returns is provided by the slots manufacturers to their customers. At any given time, a casino operator selects one specific theoretical return setting. The setting, however, must first be determined by the casino operator, who evaluates it for both desired casino performance metrics as well as for complying with their gaming jurisdiction's legal requirements. What I think is interesting about theoretical slot machine payout returns is how they are different from any other game available at a casino. Roulette, craps, blackjack, and any card game is based on rules. These rules, which are provided to any player of the game, very specifically define the odds of winning. Therefore, websites like Michael Shackelford's The Wizard of Odds can exist to provide those various odds of winning to a fair degree of accuracy by simply calculating them. They are not perfectly accurate, but they are certainly, as usual for these sorts of calculations, good enough for this application. Again, it isn't rocket science, folks. My point here is that most games and casinos have known odds of winning to a high degree of accuracy, and slot machines do not. For slot machines, the odds of winning are never known outside of a very few employees at casinos, and they're not sharing due to serious legal ramifications if they were to do so. So without theoretical slot machine payout returns being available to slots enthusiasts, what are we to do? What we do is take a close look at any available actual slot machine payout returns that might be available to us. Actual slot machine payout returns are the results obtained from playing slot machines. The theoretical payout return is just that, theoretical. Statistical variation around that setting is expected, which is why actuals are important. To put this another way, first you plan, which is the theoretical part, and then you see what happens. This is the actual part. Some level of actual slot machine payout returns can be gotten in 5 different ways. I'll go over each of these sources of information. They are: 1. looking at one's own performance. 2. Historical performance as noted on a specific slot machine. 3. Analyzing the performance of any slot machines. 4. Public posting of payout returns in various online forums and groups. And 5. Public posting of actual payout returns by a gaming jurisdiction, such as a U.S. state government agency. A strictly limited amount of actual slot machine payout returns can be known based on your own performance, as mentioned in the prior section on bankroll cycling. This set of data is what is known to statisticians as a relatively small sample size, which is of limited usefulness, yet it's not completely useless. Another way actual slot machine payout returns can be known is if they are provided by the casino to the player. At some casinos, the amount and times of taxable jackpots from within the last week may be posted on the side of the slot machine. I've seen this done at Horseshoe Casino, Southern Indiana. However, this practice of posting a machine's jackpots on the side of that machine is very casino-specific and is not typically available. A player will need to investigate if doing so occurs at any casinos they visit. Also, these posted jackpots are for only taxable jackpots over $1,200. With an extraordinary amount of time, along with a huge financial investment, it would indeed be possible to fully map out the payout percentages of a single slot machine. Keep in mind that each slot machine has several possible payout percentage settings available to it, which complicates both performing this procedure as well as successfully using that extensive information afterwards in an advantageous manner. Simply put, it is a highly impractical strategy given the vast amount of money required as well as the lengthy time involved betting, recording each result, and post-processing the results. Further, doing so provides only an understanding of a machine's settings at that time, and it ignores potential changes to those settings that may be instituted by the casino immediately following that data collection period. Online forums and gaming magazines publish payout percentages for players interested in finding supposedly loose slot machines. If reviewing such sites, be careful to ask and look for the source of their information. As usual, a player needs to trust their instincts. I'm certainly not the first person to say this, but if it looks too good to be true, then it probably is. From a high-level perspective, let us consider that there are only 4 possible sources of payout percentages of specific game themes. These sources are employees of game manufacturers, employees of casino operators, extensive player statistics, and outright guesswork with no real value. While 3 of these could potentially provide accurate information, 2 of those would have to have been obtained illegally. So be wary of public forums and groups trying to provide you with slot machine payout returns, especially if a payment is required. I'd be very, very cautious unless you can confirm that the information has been obtained directly from a gaming jurisdiction, such as a U.S. state gaming commission. Finally, there are actual slot machine payout returns obtained from a gaming jurisdiction, which they have because of their legally established gaming regulations. Put another way, casinos provide these statistics when gaming jurisdictions require them to do so. At the time of this writing, I published 41 posts on slot-specific gaming regulations for the 56 U.S. states, territories, and federal district. I'm writing them weekly and proceeding through them alphabetically. I'm currently at Oregon, with Pennsylvania to be published a week from now. These state-by-state reviews of slot machine casino gambling are available on my website as a free online resource for slots enthusiasts. A summary article, Slot Machine Gambling, State by State, a weekly blog, has weekly updated links to each U.S. state, territory, and federal district as the next blog article is posted. As previously mentioned, theoretical slot machine payout returns are not known except to a few casino employees. This lack of knowledge has, as is often the case, generated quite a few myths. I talk about a few of these myths next and provide a few reasons why some of them may or may not be true. One myth often said is that it's a good rule of thumb for players to play slots with higher denominations as they tend to have a higher payout return percentage. The best way to analyze this potential myth is to look at the 6 state gaming commissions that currently provide actual payout statistics for slot machines with different denominations. Colorado. The highest slot machine payout returns appear mostly centered on $1 slots, with the lowest returns entirely on penny slots. Connecticut. Slot machines payout returns mostly increased with denomination all the way up to $100 at Foxwoods, but peak at $25 before decreasing at higher denominations for Mohegan Sun's slot machines. Louisiana. The lowest slot machine payout returns across all 4 of Louisiana's gaming regions are for penny slots. Otherwise, 2 regions peak at 5-cent slots and 2 regions peak at the maximum $5 denomination. Mississippi. 2 of Mississippi's 3 gaming regions have slot machine payout returns that peak at the 5-cent denomination, while the third peaks at the maximum $5 denomination. Nevada has its locations listed separately. The North Shore of Lake Tahoe peaks at a maximum $1 denomination, but penny slots have the second highest. The South Shore of Lake Tahoe steadily increases to peak at the maximum $1 denomination. Boulder Strip portion of Las Vegas has the highest return for 25-cent denominations. Downtown Las Vegas has the highest return for the $1 denomination non-megabucks slot machines, with the lowest being the $1 denomination megabucks slot machines. For North Las Vegas, the highest return is the 25-cent denomination. For the Las Vegas Strip, the highest return is for the $1 denomination, with the second highest for the 5-cent denomination. For Laughlin, the highest return is the 25-cent denomination. For Reno, the highest return is the 5-cent denomination. For Sparks, the highest return is the maximum $5 denomination. And for Wendover, Nevada, the highest return is the maximum $5 denomination. And finally, South Dakota, the highest return is for the 5-cent denomination. As you've just heard, almost exactly half of the locations that provide denomination-specific slot machine payout returns show maximum denomination machines have the highest return. However, the other half do not show this. However this is interpreted, it is safe to say that maximum denominations having the best payout returns is not a very good rule of thumb. Another myth, also considered to be a good rule of thumb, is that the more active a bank of slot machines are, the higher the payouts tend to be. I know of no way to prove or disprove this rule of thumb with state-provided statistical data. However, I will point out that the actual saying doesn't make logical sense, or more specifically, doesn't provide a lot of value. Why? Because of the 2 odds of winning for slot machines, which again are 1, if you win, and 2, how much you win. Based on this understanding of the odds of winning, a bank of slot machines that is actively providing wins is separate from how much is being won. As is starting to become apparent to me, this myth is a slight misunderstanding of what is actually occurring. Whoever created the myth is on the right track, but hasn't quite clarified it well enough. The winning strategy this relates to, detailed above, is to try to continue to play slot machines which cycle bankrolls in the hopes of letting the slot machine run long enough to more likely generate a higher amount jackpot. Players should keep in mind that these good rules of thumbs are general trends, at best, and may not have much grounding in actual practices. In other words, be careful if planning to make extensive use of them. Alternatively, send me your slot machine rules of thumb and I'll evaluate them for you. I'll be your very own slots mythbuster. Some gaming jurisdictions, such as U.S. states, territories, and federal districts, have made it a gaming regulation that casinos within their borders provide them with weekly or monthly actual slot machine payout returns. A few of them then provide this statistical data to the public. To know if your state provides these statistics, or the legal limits on slot machine payout returns, check with your state's Gaming Control Board. Alternatively, you can check the free online resource I'm building, a weekly state-by-state review of slot machine casino gambling for each U.S. state, territory, and federal district, available on my website at ProfessorSlots.com. Again, this is a free online resource for slots enthusiasts. In terms of slots history, I've compared the annual return statistics for states with casinos in both 2007 and 2017, a decade apart. While most states show actual return percentages to have dropped by as much as 1.5%. Some states showed no changes, while a very few states showed only slight increases. In addition, gaming jurisdictions can choose to set higher and lower legal limits on slot machine payout returns. The lower legal limits on slot machine payout returns are of the greatest interest, of course. However, this isn't quite as easy as it seems. Casino properties don't often set these limits as low as they are legally allowed to, in part because it's not good for business. Casino properties are very much aware that their business depends on having a good reputation. If it becomes known as a place to lose money, whether or not this is actually true, such a blow to their hard-won reputation may have dire financial consequences. Another reason is due to the nature of a theoretical setting versus an actual result. Casinos have to be careful their actual returns stay above the lower legal limit. Otherwise, their gambling license could be put at risk. If they attempt to carefully keep their theoretical slot machine payout returns only slightly above the legal requirements, a short-term drop in actual slot machine payout returns near the end of the reporting period could potentially result in being non-compliant to state gaming regulations. That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good at all. In summary, how well slots enthusiasts perform is primarily centered around both the theoretical and actual aspects of the slot machine payout returns. Slot machine payout returns are how much a player wins divided by how much is bet. It is how much a casino returns to a player as a percentage of the total amount a player bets. These slot machine payout return percentages determine what is possible for a slot machine player to achieve over long-term play. This is typically calculated for a single slot machine. Hold percentages, which is how much the casino keeps of the total amount bet by the player, are simply 100% minus return percentages. Personal returns can also be calculated, but this is practically difficult as well as problematic for individual players to either record or calculate based on their own play on every slot machine they have gambled on. Using the concept of payout returns, I provided a simple way to count bankroll cycles as a way to gain insight into individual slots gambling performance. Theoretical returns are relatively unknown to anyone except for the slots manufacturers, who designed a set of possible settings for the casino that then chooses one precise setting at a time. Actual returns are the financial results of slot machines having been played. Further, using the reported actual playout return statistics of state gaming control boards, I broke the myth that higher denomination slot machines have higher payout returns. Using 2017 actual payout returns, I showed that this phenomenon only occurred 50% of the time. Another potentially mythical rule of thumb, that an active bank of slot machines have a higher payout return, was shown to be nonsensical from a logic point of view. This was done by explaining how slot machines have an independent calculation for the different odds of winning. That is to say, 1, if there is a win, and then another calculation for 2, the amount of that win. Also, I've reviewed several different state gaming requirements for actual slot machine payout returns, so-called slot machine performance statistics. A 2007 to 2017 historic comparison was provided of actual payout returns between the same casinos, where most states showed a 1.5% drop in actual payout returns since 2007. Some states showed no change in actual slot machine payout returns, and very few states showed a slight increase in actual payout returns. Finally, I went over some of the dangers to casinos for non-compliance towards legal limits on slot machine payout returns. The danger lies in the fact that actual payout returns statistically vary from set theoretical values. Casinos have to make sure that their actual slot machine payout returns always stay above the legal limits, but can only attempt this by carefully controlling theoretical payout returns for their slot machines. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Show notes for this episode are now available within most podcast apps, but are also available on my website at ProfessorSlots.com/E24. Up next is the second segment of the show, Maryland Slot Machine Casino Gambling. In this episode segment, I provide a brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or federal district, emphasizing, by far, anything of interest to slot machine casino gamblers. Here goes. Maryland slot machine casino gambling consists of 6 casinos offering electronic gaming machines, 5 of which offer live table games, and 1 of which offers both table games and pari-mutuel wagering. Overall, Maryland has 14 gambling establishments, of which 6 offer electronic gaming machines. These include 5 pari-mutuel facilities offering horse racing and simulcasting, 2 bingo halls, and 2 international cruise ships. The specific type of slot machines offered in Maryland are the type of video slot machines known as video lottery terminals, which are controlled by the state lottery. In the 2008 general election, voters ratified a constitutional amendment authorizing slot machines in the state. In a 2012 referendum, voters also approved a gaming expansion bill allowing for table games in all Maryland casinos, as well as a 6th casino also offering slot machines. The minimum legal age for gambling in Maryland is 21, including gambling via online casinos. Up next is a usually short statement about slot machine private ownership, which I have included in case you live in this U.S. state and are considering owning a slot machine. Here it is. In Maryland, it is legal to privately own a slot machine if it is 25 years old or older. The Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Agency has a 7-person commission as its advisory board. This commission is appointed to 4-year terms by the governor with the advice and consent of the Senate. The commission assumed responsibility for regulated slot machines in Maryland in 2008. Payback percentages from Maryland casinos is not publicly available. However, the state's gaming regulations require a minimum payback of 87% on any one gaming machine. In addition, each casino must have an average payout return percentage between 90 and 95%. In this section, I'll discuss Maryland gambling establishments. You will find a link in the show notes available at professorslots.com/E24 to my article on Maine slot machine casino gambling. This web article includes a detailed list of each of Maine's 14 gambling establishments, with both the type of casino as well as any available links to their websites. The largest casino in Maryland is the Maryland Live Casino and Hotel in Handover, having 4,337 gaming machines and 125 table games. The second largest casino is the MGM Casino National Harbor in Oxon Hill, having 3,300 gaming machines and 140 table games. This casino opened in December of 2016. Maryland's 14 gambling establishments, along with the gaming type offered, are 1. Casino at Ocean Downs in Berlin, a casino. 2. Carnival Pride Casino in Baltimore, a cruise ship. 3. Delta Bingo and Gaming Laurel in Laurel, a bingo hall. 4. Delta Bingo and Gaming Waysons in Lothian, a bingo hall. 5. Hollywood Casino Perryville in Perryville, a casino. 6. Horseshoe Casino Baltimore in Baltimore, a casino. 7. Laurel Park in Laurel, a pari-mutuel facility. 8. Maryland Live Casino in Handover, a casino. 9. Maryland State Fair Timonium in Timonium, a pari-mutuel facility. 10. MGM National Harbor in Oxon Hill, a casino. 11. Pimlico Racecourse in Baltimore, a pari-mutuel facility. 12. Rocky Gap Casino Resort in Flintstone, a casino. 13. Rosecraft Raceway in Fort Washington, a pari-mutuel facility. 14. Royal Caribbean International, Grandeur of the Seas in Baltimore, a cruise ship. In summary, Maryland slot machine casino gambling consists of 6 casinos offering video lottery terminal-style slot machines. Most recently, the MGM National Harbor Casino in Oxon Hill opened in December 2016. Baltimore is home port to 2 international cruise ships, also offering slot machines. Overall, Maryland has 14 gambling establishments, including those with slots, as well as 5 pari-mutuel facilities and 2 bingo halls. Again, remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Part 1 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast has yet to be determined, but it should be the winning strategies 2. Part 2 of this next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is another brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or federal district. Next time, I'll be talking to you about the great U.S. state of Massachusetts. That's the end of another great episode of the Professor Slots podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Show notes for this episode can be found within most podcast apps or at professorslots.com/E24. I plan to have the next episode come out very soon for you, where I'll have more amazing content for the show. Until the next episode, have fun, be safe, and make good choices.